Hello again, beautiful people. Welcome or welcome back. I have been in a bit of a creative funk lately, so I decided to do my favorite thing to kind of help jumpstart the creative process, and that is to make journal cards. Journal cards, postcards, art dolls, however you want to use them or whatever you want to call them. That is something that I really enjoy creating. So I posted it in the Facebook group for Courtney Diaz's Patreon, and I kind of left it open for people in case they were interested in receiving one. I'm gonna make some Valentine's Day themed postcards. So yeah, so I already went through my stash and pulled out a couple of things that I plan on using for this project. I'm really just trying to use up some of the things that I already have just lying around, and yeah, so here we go. First thing I did before I go through the stack of papers, I made these little watercolor hearts. I just used a mix of Daniel Smith, Prima Marketing, some handmade watercolors and whatnot, and some glitter watercolors or metallic ones, and I just played around. I don't know if I'll use these, but I had a whole lot of fun making these. So yeah, I have watercolor hearts. And then here I just have some pink scrap paper. These are some neon colored papers that I made using some of the hand carved stamps that I make. Yeah, I usually send these out in Happy Mail whenever I send Happy Mail out, and these are the ones that I kept for myself. I have some jelly plate, prints. I try to keep with the theme of pink, red, purple, orange, a couple of blue. These last sheets here, I took some cheap watercolor paper and a gift card and just smeared on some white gesso. And then once that dried, I just dabbled a bunch of watercolor. And it's really cool when you do that because you can see the places where the watercolor took to the spots with gesso and the spots without, and it kind of creates a lot more visual interest, I feel, than if I was to just watercolor on regular paper. This was Distress Oxide sprays, some more watercolors, and yeah, these are, I'm using blank index cards as my backgrounds, but if you don't have these, you could use Project Life cards that you're not using. I was just trying, like I said, use up things that I already owned. As far as the actual art dolls, I have a book that I got from a thrift store on I think it's what is it, Victorian? Let's see what it says. English women's clothing in the 19th century, and it has all of these. It had all of these really cool illustrations, and so I went through and I cut out a couple that I thought would be interesting to use as a base. I have these two magazine images. Whether or not I use them, I'm not entirely sure because I think this one might be too big, but she might work. And then these are printables from my two favorite Etsy stores for art dolls and stuff. I'm not sure how to pronounce the first shop, but I will link both down below in case you are interested. But I figured Valentine's Day Cupid matches the theme, so I printed out these wings in different colors. This is from Art Tea Life over on Etsy. This is the second shop that I really like, and then more from the first shop. I have different sized heads. This one I thought was really cool because you can mix and match the different hair and stuff. Here I have some of the ones that have the full body that you can mix and match. And then this is Art Tea Life. All right, so that is pretty much like the stuff that I'm going to use to construct the cards. I think I will just get started.
Hello again. So I ended up making 4 cards in total. I try to use a little bit of, I guess, from each category of things that I showed. So this first card, I really just wanted to use more collage papers as the background. And by the way, I do want to say I'm sorry. I don't know why my camera kept randomly like focusing in and out. It happens quite a bit in the beginning of this video, so I apologize. I honestly can. It's also been like really overcast, so the footage itself came out kind of grainy and a lot more darker than I would have liked. I almost just like scrapped this video altogether because of it, but I decided to keep it anyway, just because unfortunately, that's how it turned out. But I really loved how all these cards ended up looking, and it felt like a waste to not use it. So I apologize for the graininess, and if it randomly zooms in and out like that, it's super random. Anywho, yeah, so this first card, sorry, like I said, I wanted to do more collage, and I decided to keep that Victorian girl illustration as is. I didn't alter her in any way. Just because I really like that contrast of all of the bright pinks and then the graphic black and white illustration. So I felt that it kind of balanced out really well. So I kept that one kind of minimal. This second card that I made, I have to say, I struggled with and I was not a huge fan of. So I wanted to use, like I mentioned that, and when I was going over the supplies, that magazine image of that really cool, black and white suit thing. But I don't know why I went with the face that I did. I think in hindsight, while I'm watching this, I should have gone with like a bigger head because the body is like smaller. And I think that was a problem I had after I put everything down, was that the the art doll thing was just too small for the space. So, even after I put it all together, it still felt a little bare and incomplete. So I actually come back to it and add a little bit more. For this background, I wanted to color the background. So just one of the ways that you could do it if you don't want to use like collage bits. I'm using some really old Tim Holtz distress stains. I don't know if he still makes them. It's a shame if he doesn't, because I actually really, really like them. I have like a small collection of them, and I've just been slowly using them. I will say that those particular, like the distress stains or whatever, they do go bad. They get like a real funky smell. I found that if I keep them in a drawer away from direct sunlight, where it's dark and stuff, it lasts me longer. So I haven't had to throw out any, because I think I've only had to throw out like 1 or 2 because they smelled really, really weird. The rest are holding up pretty well. But anywho, so yeah, that's what I use as the background. And then instead of using a watercolor heart, I tried using like a solid color heart just to kind of help tie in the printed paper or the stamped paper that I put on the side. And I wrote that quote, "What is love?" And as I was writing it in my head, I was just singing that song, like, "What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me." So that song was playing in my head as I was making this card. But yeah, so I think, I think that's how I leave it this time. Like I said, I go back to that card 2 more times actually. This next card, I wanted to use some Distress Oxides. Distress Oxides, I think, are just really, really neat. So when these first came out, I straight up like Pokemoned them and like wanted to get all of them. So I have been slowly adding them, especially because like Tim Holtz comes out with like new colors every couple months and stuff. Um, and they don't get as much love as they used to. I used to use them a lot as backgrounds in my journal, but I found that Distress Oxides and fountain pens do not mix well together. So I didn't want these supplies to like go to waste, so now I just mainly use them as backgrounds for like collage fodder and stuff. So yeah, I laid that down, and then I kind of wanted to give a little bit more to the background than just the oxide. So you saw me use a gold watercolor, and that I applied on that weird brush thing with all the bristles. I don't even know what it's called. It is also from Tim Holtz, but I think it's really cool. It makes like really neat splatters and stuff. So that's what I use to put on the splatters. Here at this point in the card, like I just wasn't sure what to do because even though I had like the focal image, it still felt not as interesting. Like, I don't know, there was just something about this background that just I wasn't living for it yet. Like, it just wasn't quite there. So I just, distressed the edges a little bit, and then I pulled out one of my hand carved stamps. So for these art cards, I want to say all of the stamps that I used are stamps that I made myself. And so this one, I made it a while back, and I tried stamping it with the lighter color oxide just to see what that would look like. But it didn't show up as much, which is why I went back to the, what is it called? A picked raspberry color. Now, this one, I did use making printables from Art Tree Life. This is one of the shops that I mentioned earlier. I love her printables because they're very quirky. And so yeah, I gave her those quirky glasses to make her seem a little bit more interesting. But yeah, so this card, it's all right. I'm not super in love with it. I'm kind of at this point feeling a little more like, I guess, creatively loose. I'm starting to have a lot more fun with the cards, but, I'm still feeling not quite there just yet. So I pulled back out, like I said, that card that I just did not like, and I added some stamps along the edges, and it's almost there. I do one last thing to this card that I don't film. I actually took a Stabilo, what are they called? It's just a Stabilo, like water-soluble pencil, and I dipped it in water and just gave a loose frame around it, and I like it a whole lot more. If you were one of the people who I sent these out to, I hope you guys like them so much. I'm a little bit sad because my printer, for some reason, it does not pick up bright colors very well. So while these cards are like super vibrant as I'm making them, when I scan them to make copies for everyone, like it, a lot of the colors are muted, so it's not as vibrant, but I still think they're cute. But yeah, definitely not as vibrant, unfortunately. Now, this final card is my absolute favorite card. I love it so very much. So the background, I still had my hand carved stamps out and my oxides, so I decided to use this half circle stamp that I made. And I originally was just going to do all the darker pink shade, but then I decided to do a strip in the middle where it's like a lighter color. And you can't really see it here, but once I activate this with water, I feel like this background just really comes alive. That's a cool thing with Distress Oxides, which I'm sure you probably already know, but they are water activated. And they give you this kind of like, I don't want to say like faded, but almost like a rustic, antique type of look about them. I don't know. I really like how soft they look and stuff. So yeah, once they're activated with water, it's like a whole other thing. So once I sprayed it, I loved how the darker color and the lighter colors just started bleeding out and blurring that stamped image. It just came out like really, really cool. I did, like, you did see me like blot it with a blank card. That was just because it was still very wet and I wanted to continue working on the card. Now, I do go back and I add some some of that gold metallic watercolor. So that typically goes better when your background is still wet. I was going to leave it as is, but then I wanted to use the watercolor, but since I had already dried it, it didn't give me the pigment didn't like spread out as much as if I had done it like while it was still wet. And then because the image that I'm using is one of those like illustrations, it kind of gave me a very like medieval, I don't know, like historical vibe. And for some reason, when I think of that, I think of the gilded edges on pages. So I wanted to do that same thing, and I gave it a gold frame. As a matter of fact, for all of the cards that I send out, I gave them all like the gold frame to kind of, I guess, tie all of the cards together. Yeah, and that's pretty much what I did for these cards. This one, like I said, it's simple, but I don't know. I really, really liked it. I especially like these images that I used for their faces or the heads because of the folds of the fabric. It's very seamless with the graphic black and white illustration. Like it almost looks like it was just made for it. And so yeah, that is it. Those were my Valentine's Day postcards. I hope you all, if you do receive them, I hope you guys like them because I had so much fun making them. All right, guys, with that, I will love you and leave you. I hope you have a wonderful day. And you guys have a good one. Bye.